This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Friday ramblings. We're at Friday again, can you believe it? And today I've got a guest on with us. So if you think back to my recent podcast with Chris from Take a Breather, we talked a lot about holistic practices and in particular reflexology. So I've asked Chris on today to have another little chat with us and just to cover some of the points that we did during the podcast if you haven't already listened to it. So hi, Chris, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm still feeling this echo on the recording, but we'll play along with it. And if you get like the feedback from me, then you're getting double me. So isn't that a bad thing? Eh?
That's always a good thing.
So I just thought I'd invite you on today, Chris, to talk a little bit about what we covered in the podcast. Obviously, people have had a little listen to it, and I've got a couple of questions that I wanted to cover today. So I just wanted to kind of reflect on that. And just for the listeners that might not have listened to the podcast so far, I just wanted to ask you how you think reflexology helps with endometriosis.
So obviously for me, reflexology is it's something that works the body as a whole, so physically and mentally. So I know obviously we chatted about this in quite in depth during the podcast, but endometriosis isn't something that obviously I can or have experienced. But from a treatment perspective, just firstly getting the client in and allowing them to relax is the first point that needs to be done. Because obviously when you're relaxed, your body's in a state that it can actually begin to heal itself from however it may be feeling, whether it be fatigued or stressed or could be cramps, could be whatever it is that you're feeling. So the first point of call is getting them in and getting them relaxed. Down to the sort of the treatment itself. So within reflexology, predominantly we use the feet just because there's more of a surface area to work from, but you can do reflexology from the hands and the ears as well. But the feet's quite a nice one because the client can just lie down and again that aids them in the sort of being able to just completely let go. And I would start by just working the different systems of the body. So in relation to endometriosis, I'd be thinking of the muscular and skeletal system for the fatigue sort of symptoms that you may be feeling. The digestive system to help with any, bloating or stomach cramps and things that may be going on. The nervous system, again, to help with the stress and even things like headaches and things that you may get. And I'd work all these points sort of in a specific order, and then I'd go back to them again a little bit depending on how the client is feeling on that day. And by doing this, we're sort of working the body as a whole and helping everything get flowing and even down to like the energy as well. Not if the energy's not flowing right and you're not feeling right, then you begin to feel unwell. And so if we can get that flowing and get the energy flowing, then you're onto a good thing.
Yeah, we've just had a conversation before we started recording, haven't we, about myself. I use Chris, my reflexologist, every single month just before my period. I just said to Chris today that I'm just feeling a little bit out of sorts. My energy's low, my mood's a little bit low. And we're seeing each other Friday for treatment. And I just said, that's how I'm feeling. So I'm guessing that if you have that information from a client before you start the treatment, then you will work that area more.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, a lot of it as well is there's, the body is a complex thing, but there is only so many different systems that you can work as well. So it's not as down to the finest detail that it has to be in this exact specific order. The main thing is that we're covering all these points and we're doing it in a way that's allowing you to relax. So it's not as such as, for me anyway, if you go to a physio, for instance, it can be quite sort of clinical and sort of uncomfortable and whereas doing a reflexology treatment, part of it is allowing the client to feel like they are at home in a way, so they can completely let go and relax. Whilst then I work all these points and do my job basically. But even then, down to the client leaving, you know, giving them a bit of time after the treatment before they have to shoot off, and I'm lucky with where I work, like, you know, on the canal boat, and obviously sometimes the home visits as well is nice, because obviously it's in familiar settings for whoever needs the treatment, but it's allowing a space that provides relaxation as well. Like, you know, obviously being on the boat is you've got the gentle sway of the water, you've got the sound of the nature around you. And I think I touched on this in the podcast, but I used to work in the city centre, and obviously the problem was clients were arriving stressed due to traffic, due to parking, all that, and then as soon as they've had this nice chill treatment, they leave, and then they're back to loud noises, trying to sit in traffic, trying to get out again and stuff, and after the job that's been done is then undone by the time they've got home, because they're stressed out again.
And I was just going to say as well, I try to always have, like, when you do my treatments, I try to have like the afternoon of work, or be doing something that doesn't require anything that's stressful. So I've just said I'm going to take the Friday afternoon off and then just sit and watch films all afternoon. And I'm lucky enough to be able to do that, but not everybody has that luxury. Would you say to people after treatment to try and have that more relaxed time afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I always, obviously, one of the first things I ask my clients is what are you doing after the treatment? Because, you know, I understand people have to work. It's, you know, we've not all got the luxury of, I mean, just having an hour's treatment's a luxury in itself, let alone having the rest of the day to chill out. You know, that's like, for some people, they'd be like, chance would be a fine thing.
Yeah.
But I always just, you know, pre-warn them that when you have a treatment, whether it be reflexology or massage or something more spiritual like Reiki or energy healing, the body can react in different ways, and you know, the body's got to flush out these things that we're managing to release, whether that's an energy flush out or more of a physical thing, like people going to the toilet a little bit more after a treatment, or if they're suffering with sinus blockages, for instance, you know, it can leave them maybe having a slight headache and stuff after a treatment, and that is a natural response. And it's one thing when you do your training, you're always made aware of aftercare, because some clients come and they expect that after a treatment they'll be doing cartwheels straight after, and they can literally be absolutely feeling like they're on cloud nine. Now, a lot of people do feel like that, but the body reacts differently, and I always make a point of saying is that, you know, for one, please don't hate me if you do feel a little bit not right after your treatment, because it's the body's way of realigning and getting rid of what needs
feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, and I always say though, but by the next day you'll then notice the big change, you know. So I've had some that come, and especially it's people that don't do things like this regularly, so that it can be a shock to the body, and maybe elderly as well, you know. So if it was an elderly client, for instance, I'd ease off a little bit. I wouldn't go in as deep, if you like, on the points. I'd do a much gentler treatment, because I don't, you know, obviously the older you are, the more your body might react, and the more the less capable you might be of dealing with that. So yeah, aftercare is a big thing. But I always just say to people, if they are busy after a treatment and they have got things on, you know, drink plenty of water, and just try as best as possible to take it easy. You know, if they're going to be in work, then try not to be getting as stressed out. As easier said than done, isn't it? But
totally.
Every little helps, I think.
Exactly. So if like we're talking about this now, like I've been having treatment for a number of years, but I remember the first time when I spoke to your mum about this, I said, well, I don't like having my feet touched. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who say that, like you'll talk about reflexology to them, and they go, well, I couldn't have reflexology because I don't like having my feet touched. But me, for one, I'm a convert, and I don't even feel like it's the way that I used to feel like my feet were being touched, as in tickle or, you know, feeling a bit uncomfortable. I never feel like I feel completely relaxed. So how would you get somebody over that hurdle of saying, I don't like having my feet touched?
I think part of that, a lot of people are self-conscious of the feet as well. You know, if you think your feet for a lot of people are constantly wrapped up in socks and shoes, and they very rarely get them out until maybe they're at home amongst family members, possibly. So it can be it's kind of a bit like, you know, going on holiday and being a bit uneasy of, you know, getting in your bikini or your swim shorts in front of people you don't know, you know, getting your feet out. A lot of people think that it's a sort of a bit of a sort of, oh, I can't do that, but I always start the treatment, especially on the boat, with a warm foot bath, which is a nice
Yeah.
way of easing the client in, because it takes away any fears that, oh, my feet might smell, or and I'll be honest, I've been doing this for a long time now, and I go into care homes and do reflexology. I've seen lots of different feet, and nothing's ever surprised me or put me off, and
Yeah.
it's not something I'm not worried about. And so, I always try and make sure the client's comfortable in knowing that, don't worry, you're not going to put me off in any way, and so
Yeah.
don't worry about it. A lot of people with tickly feet, but I think with reflexology, it's quite firm. You work in different points, and it's about the firm pressure on and off. So it's less sort of wispy and tickly in a way, and light. It's more, like I said, if this was my foot, you're kind of on and off, and it's firm
Yeah.
pressure. So that takes away a lot of the tickliness of it anyway. There's the odd time where someone might just be like, oh, that tickled a little bit, but it's very short lived, and before you know it, it's you're back to just realizing that it's okay, and
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can vouch for myself that the first time I got on a couch, obviously, was with your mum. And I think she was a little bit more persuasive in getting me there. I think maybe get on my couch and you'll never look back kind of was the attitude. She wasn't wrong, because obviously I've been having it ever since. But yeah, it was kind of a bit strange for me, because like you say, I was really paranoid about my feet, because I've got like a dancer's feet. Dancer's feet are awful. They're full of cuts, scars, calluses. I had a fungal nail infection. So my feet were not pretty. And I was a little bit like that person you're describing, that was like really, really conscious of getting the feet out in the first place. I mean, obviously knew your mum a little bit before she started treatment with me, but not very much. And it was like that fear of like, because I had like very ticklish feet, so I thought I was going to kick her and stuff. So probably the first time I ever had reflexology, I was thinking about all these things, and it wasn't as relaxing as maybe it could have been, because I had all these thoughts. But as soon as like then you get into the treatment, that all goes out the window, and you just start to like really relax and go with it. And again, I'll say I've never looked back. So I would recommend that anybody watching this that is thinking, oh, I couldn't do that because I don't like my feet, then you do get over it.
yeah, I as soon as you're on the couch, and you will just begin to be like, oh, why have I not done this before?
Yeah.
And if you think, we're on our feet all the time, so if anything from the treatment as well is helping look after your feet a little bit,
Yeah.
and acknowledging that they're something that they're gonna have hard skin on, and they're gonna have scrapes and sores and stuff, because we shove them in tight
Yeah.
shoes, and we're walking on them. They're carrying our body weight 24/7, so no one's feet are ever going to be this perfect sort of, other than a baby's,
Yeah.
And babies' feet are fascinating, because they are literally just like little tiny perfect little things.
Yeah.
So no adult is ever going to have feet like that. No teenager is going to even have feet like that. You
No.
think running around doing sports, doing this, that, and the other. It's about just accepting them. I'm not like this weird foot guy that's like, everyone love your feet, man. Do you know what I mean? But the end of the day, we've all got them, or well, we're all lucky enough if we have
Yeah.
two, a pair of feet, and just accept that just like with anything, everyone's unique, and it's not something we should be try not to be self-conscious about.
Absolutely. So in the podcast as well, you gave us a few recommendations. So you recommended to us the Shakti mat, which I've talked about on my socials quite recently. And you also gave us a book recommendation on there. Can't think of my life what you and I have put that as a book recommendation this week actually. Is there anything else that you could recommend to the listeners that will help holistically?
Reflexology based. I mean, anything that's sort of pushing on your feet a little bit is really good. You can get them little foot massages, like the little wooden rollers that you roll your feet on. It's a great way to just sort of work the points, and you don't need to know what you're doing, because you can just kind of, obviously all I'd say is that if you're not used to doing things like that before, again, it could give you a little bit of a healing reaction, if you like. But you know, it's a good way to get your feet, especially if you feel your feet are sensitive and you're not quite ready for someone to be prodding and touching
Yeah.
them. That's a great way to start introducing this sort of touch element to the feet. Just like with the Shakti mat and standing on the Shakti mat, which does hurt at first, I'll be honest, because you're putting your whole body weight on there. But like I said on the podcast, just sitting down with it at your feet and just having your feet resting on it, the soles of your feet, is a great way. And just in general, you know, looking after your feet. So having you can get them little foot spas and stuff. Anyone that's, you know, I remember having one of them ages ago, and the thought of sitting with the telly on, just with my feet in one of them, just sort of swishing around, is great. At the end of the day, obviously you've got all these reflex points from your feet. So if the best condition your feet can be in, obviously the best you'll feel. So yeah, it's a good place to start, I suppose.
Fabulous. Any kind of podcast or anything that you can recommend to us? Doesn't have to be to do with reflexology. Something quite spiritual, mindful.
To be honest, I feel like I don't listen to enough podcasts than I should, to be honest. I always say it's like the chance is a fine thing of having time to actually sit and put something on. But there's a radio DJ, Lauren Laverne's Happy Place podcast is amazing. She gets some really good speakers on, and it's very spiritual in a way that's popular for people that aren't maybe spiritual. So she gets key talkers on, like she's had like a shaman woman came on, and she was all talking about like a commune that she built up, and it was just really interesting. She's had people like Russell Brand on, you know, people that are in the public eye. Fern Cotton, yeah.
Fern Cotton.
Sorry, did I say Lauren Laverne?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get them two mixed. I always get them two mixed up, you know. Lauren Laverne does Desert Island Disc now, I think. That's what I was.
Yeah, I thought it was Fern because I've read her book Happy Place.
Yeah.
And then I've listened to a few of her podcasts, and as you say, it's more kind of for the, I don't know, it's not deep and meaningful, is it? It's quite simple, but it hits the point.
Yeah, so it's for general people that, you know, that it doesn't matter what you're into, you could listen to that and you'll take some bits from it and think, oh, that was interesting. Or you might hear one of them and think, oh, well, that sounded like a load of collywobble. But, you know, everyone that she gets on is interesting, and it's all based around well-being and you know, a lot of it's based around, there's a lot of ones about meditation and stuff.
I think I listened to one with Davina as well, Davina McCall. I'm quite a big fan of Davina McCall, and she talks about her like addiction and things, and how like now she's found it like really like spiritual, that she goes back to her self-development to help her when she's like thinking of addiction.
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, Russell Brand's done loads of really good ones as well, and again, he's had some really cool people come on. And there's a guy known as the Iceman, Wim Hof, who's he developed a breathing technique, and it's fascinating. And he's such a interesting person to listen to speak. He's obviously this big Dutch bearded man, and he's so his accent's amazing as well. So you could just sit. You could listen to him talk for hours, and it don't matter what he's saying because his voice is so colourful and but that's really interesting about obviously breathing techniques and patterns and from a health perspective how it can really help.
He does it with the water as well, the ice baths, doesn't he?
Fascinating. Yeah, he does these breathing techniques, then gets in like ice water, and he climbed like Mount Everest in a pair of swimming shorts and no shoes and shirt, and to prove a point that he can make his body do whatever he wants it to do, as long as he's breathing correctly. I mean, they got these scientists to hook him up to this stuff, to like monitors, and they injected a bit of something or another into him and were monitoring it, and he was doing this breathing technique, and they managed to watch on the screens how his body just dispelled what it was that they'd injected in, because he was doing this breathing. And even they were all scratching their heads like, how's he doing this, you know? So they were like, maybe he's a one-off. But then they got he said, well, give me a month and I'll train some people that you give me up and then do the same test on them. And they did, and it was exactly the same again. It's fascinating. So that's a great one to listen to. But other than that, podcast wise, for me, it's normally just low league football that I'm that I'm listening to on my podcast. So
whatever takes you away from work, isn't it? It's escapism at the end of the day.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's cool. So I know that obviously we did touch on this on the podcast as well, but Chris is not only a reflexologist, he's not only a holistic therapist. You do a lot more. You do music schools with kids. I believe you've been doing that this summer.
Yeah, it's been a busy summer actually, because while I've had the boat out the water, having it fully repainted and stripped back to bare metal, and that was like a 3 week job that I had to get involved in as well, mainly to keep the costs down. So by the time that was done, I was then been running summer schools and rock schools and stuff, and then the boat finally reopened on Monday. So it's been non-stop actually all summer. And yes, we were having a bit of a wedding do this weekend as well. So it's like there's just
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. It's all come round quite fast. So we're just sort of I've just been getting the garden ready before this call actually. So yeah, so it's been a busy summer, but I'm thankful that I do the music stuff as well, because obviously
Yeah.
during the pandemic I couldn't be touching people.
No.
That all just came to a grinding halt completely, and obviously problem is when you've got all your eggs in one basket, when something like that happens, which no one could have actually foreseen,
Yeah.
I'd have been left with no work whatsoever. So the music stuff, and obviously I teach mindfulness in the schools as well, that
Yeah.
obviously took the forefront, which was great. And for me, it doesn't matter if I'm doing holistic stuff or I'm working with kids doing music. To me, it's all about working with other humans and making them feel good, and
Yeah.
that's for me, it's like what I want to do, and that's what I've managed to make a living out of doing. And so I might have a quiet week where I'm not doing many treatments. If it's summer holidays, a lot of people have kids to look after and stuff, so they
Yeah.
can't get time to come. So then I just get busier doing other stuff, and keeps me.
And that's great that you've got that kind of balance, haven't you, between like the music and the therapy.
Yeah, and it's like the yin and yang, I suppose. You've got the loudness of the rock music with the kids, or my own band going off doing gigs myself, and then I've got the chilled, like, I've got 3 days on the boat next week, and it's just Reiki and reflexology all week.
Yeah.
That's like a well-needed chill for myself, as well as obviously for the clients. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Well, as usual, we could talk about this all day, but we don't want to go on forever, and I'm sure that you have other things to do too. But where can people find you physically?
So I work from the canal boat, which is in Poynton, in Cheshire. It's nice and easy. It's, central to South Manchester, really, 20-minute drive. I do the odd home visit as well, but it just purely depends on location and availability, really. But all the info's on my website, takeabreatheruk.com, including online booking function, so people can have a look at the sort of treatment list and book what they want. All the contact info's on there for people that want to maybe ask me some questions before making a booking if they're not quite sure what to go for. So
What I'll do is I'll pin the podcast as well to the title on here, and on there on the show notes from the podcast is all of Chris's details anyway, so you can get in contact with him that way too. But just want to say thank you, Chris, again for giving me your time and talking to my audience. Been great speaking to you.
Always a pleasure, Michelle.
And I'll look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Yeah, I'll see you on Friday.
All right, you take care.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
See you later.